So now it's time to take a look at what happens inside the sprint planning. As all the other events, the sprint planning is also a time box event, and this leads us to a maximum of 8 hours to a 1 month sprint. So if you, for instance, have set up a sprint of 2 weeks, you will only have a maximum of 4 hours to dedicate to your sprint planning. The idea for each sprint planning is to actually plan the work to be performed in the sprint, so it should occur at the beginning of a sprint. The idea is also to have the collaboration of the entire Scrum team, where everyone gets involved in defining what can be done this sprint. So if we take a close look, the idea is to actually have the development team to forecast the functionality to develop in the sprint, to actually choose the features that should be promoted to a high level of priority to be developed in that sprint, while the product owner should propose the sprint goal by selecting the product backlog items that are available and that should be presented to the development team. So the inputs for the sprint planning are the product backlog. If it's not the first sprint planning, you will have the latest product increment that was delivered to the client. And then you have two metrics: the projected capacity of your development team, so what your team has already shown that was able to produce, and the past performance of the development team, what exactly was the velocity of the items that were developed. As output of the sprint planning, we have the sprint goal. This leads the entire Scrum team to know what should happen inside of each sprint. On the other hand, the development team should also design the system and the work to produce a product increment. So the idea is to actually decompose the work to units of 1 day or less. So they are commonly known as tasks. You grab one item available in the product backlog that was given by the product owner, and you decompose that work item into several tasks. And the idea is to obtain the external assistance from the product owner to be more clarified exactly what is the aim goal of each work item. Regarding the product owner, it will help to clarify items and whenever it makes sense to actually make trade-offs, because the idea is that the product owner will maximize the value to be delivered, and the development team has a capacity and has a velocity that should be respected, so it will not commit to more work than they already know that they can achieve. So revising the inputs for sprint planning, the product backlog items that are specific for the sprint should be decomposed, as well as the sprint goal should be always kept in mind. And from that second part of the sprint planning, as output, we will be having an artifact that is the sprint backlog. So this event actually involves everyone in the Scrum team, and as inputs the product backlog with all the items that are available to become work items, and as outputs of the sprint planning, you have the sprint goal and the sprint backlog. That is a small subset of the product backlog. So items go from the product backlog into the sprint backlog, and this indicates what are the exact items that should be developed inside of a sprint.